Well, good morning, folks. This is Chapter 1 of Introduction to Corrections, and I'm going to try to have up one of these videos for each chapter. And these videos are going to summarize the basic things that I think we need to get out of these chapters. And going to be just a few minutes in length, and I'm going to expand upon some of the concepts in these videos as well. I want to just begin by talking about what your book calls the major parts of the CJ system. And we know that the three major parts are the police, the courts, and the corrections. And of course, in this class, we're going to be focusing on the correctional system. Just a couple of things that I want to bring up first. Some key terms that your chapter talks about. The first one is a felony. Keep in mind, a felony is the most serious offense that we have. It is typically defined as a crime in which a person can serve at least 1 year in prison up to the death penalty. Then we have what are called misdemeanors. Misdemeanors are offenses for which a person can pay a fine all the way up to serving at least 1 year in prison or in a jail facility. And the final one, or the lowest level on the chart, is what we call infractions. Infractions are things like speeding. Going 10 miles over the speed limit is typically an infraction. Not wearing your seatbelt's an infraction. You're typically going to have a fine here with most infractions. I also want to look for a minute in your text. It has what is called the crime funnel, and if you've got the 7th edition of this book, it's on page 9. Now, the crime funnel is a look at how cases, or how many cases, actually flow through the system. And if you'll look at it, your book actually starts off with 1,000 cases and then goes down to roughly about 68 or so that are being convicted. What we see here is that essentially a large number of cases actually enter the criminal justice system itself, or I should say a large number of crimes are committed. Not all of those crimes are going to result in an arrest. But when we do have arrests, very few people are actually tried and sentenced. Just to give you some research here, about a quarter of all rapes are reported. Roughly about 20% of cases only go to trial of the ones where there are an arrest. There's a large number of cases that are plea bargained out. So when we look at this funnel, you have to look at the system from the concept of there's a large number of offenses that are committed, but in all reality, even of the ones that are arrested, very few cases are actually going to go to trial. Most of them are going to be pled out or are going to be deferred out and having the individual go through some type of program or something like that. I'm going to also have you do some research on what is called the wedding cake perspective. And this is another look at the system itself. And the wedding cake perspective simply says that there are basically 4 types of cases that we have in the courts. The top layer of the cake are your high-level cases to where there's a lot of media attention that's put on them. There's a lot of publicity that's out there about them. These are your celebrity crimes. A little bit bigger layer that's below the top layer is your felony cases. These are your cases that are not as popular as the top layer, but they're still your homicides, your burglaries, your things like that. Then below that's a little bit bigger layer of cases that we have. These are your misdemeanors. This is getting to be the run-of-the-mill cases. And then finally the lowest layer, which is the largest layer, are going to be your run-of-the-mill cases. What I'm going to have you do for one of your assignments is you're actually going to research the wedding cake perspective, and then you're going to have to talk about how it works with the crime funnel and some of the things and similarities that they have here. So those are a couple of the definitions that we get into. Now, also with your book here, it talks about the criminal justice process. I'm not going to go into this a whole lot. I do want to mention it, though. There are a couple of things here that I think are important when we go into this. So what you have here is when we talk about the process, what happens after a person is arrested. You're going to cover this in your courts class a lot more in depth. And as a matter of fact, this is about the only time we're going to mention it. So once you have an arrest, the person is then taken before a magistrate. In North Carolina, they have to be taken essentially immediately before a magistrate. Our magistrates run 24 hours, 7 days a week. They're taken before a magistrate. The magistrate can determine probable cause. The magistrate can set a bond. Depending on whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, that really dictates the next steps. If it's a felony, it can go all the way to Superior Court, or it can go through District Court. If it's a misdemeanor, it's going to stay in the District Court system. The last thing I want to mention, and this really is going to be something that we will talk about later on, is what are the goals of the criminal justice system, or what are the goals of corrections, I should say. We're going to look at about 5 specific goals that they have. What is it that we want corrections to do? Do we want it to punish people? Do we want it to rehabilitate people? Do we want it to just lock people up so that they can't harm society? Do we want it to retribute society? In other words, make society whole again, which is a new concept that we've had come about. What is it that we actually want the criminal justice system to do? So those are the few of the things that we're going to look at in this chapter. If you have any questions, please post them on the Q&A forum, or as always, you can email me.